Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sales Office Hours for EMEA and APAC. It's May 8th. We don't have a meeting on the agenda, so feel free to add things ad hoc and verbalize.
Yeah, I have one point. If no one has anything else, maybe I can verbalize while I'm typing. I would like to provision a new cell, and David actually redirected me to this doc. So just wanted to check whether this doc is enough, or should I be be aware of anything else to provision a new cell to test a few things.
Yeah, that is probably the most up-to-date doc that we
Awesome.
have.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, what do you need to test specifically? Should like
Yeah.
are the cells that we have not enough for you? Like, what are you specifically looking at?
Yeah, in the recent months, or in the recent weeks, we have made few changes to the cell's unique sequence stuff. So there was some changes on how the ranges are configured for each cell, and the old cell don't have them, or it did not have the configuration up to date with the recent changes. So we would like to make sure that everything works as expected by creating a new cell and ensure that the ranges is indeed
Got it.
non-overlapping. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this, so does this mean when we provision a cell, uh, do we automatically run a rake command or something to
Yeah.
update the sequences? And
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
that means we also need to update topology service with this cell information, right?
Topology service has already been updated with that. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
But
Yes.
we would still need to
Um,
update the topology server's configuration with this new cell that you are provisioning so it can get the correct sequences.
Sorry, Tarun, you mean the topology service deployer repo? Is that the one? Or
Yeah,
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 yes.
there is a configuration.
yeah, that was
So it's
updated
this
as
one.
well.
I
Right?
see. Yeah.
Mhm.
So so this one is I think this L sequence ranges, right?
Yeah, this is
And
the
staging.
new changes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want
And
new cell to be created with this configuration. That's it.
okay, and will you give it cell ID 5? Like this is the part that we haven't really figured out, like how like what comes first, like topology service or um the provisioning of the cell, because there is a chicken and egg situation in the sense
Mm.
um cell ID is owned by topology service. Um, so my question is like, for example, if we go into cells tissue, which is where we
Mhm.
provision the cells, right? So let's look at, for example, rings, cells dev. Um, we already have a cell ID 5, for example, so it's already provisioned. So in
Mhm.
your case, like if we want a fresh new cell, we have to put in cell ID 6
Yeah.
because cell ID 5 is already provisioned, right?
Yeah.
So inside of topology service, we have to add a new cell,
Mhm. Yeah.
which would be your cell, right?
Yeah. That
And
makes
then
sense.
now the chicken and egg situation that comes is the address. The address gets created when we provision a cell.
Mhm.
Um, but we need to register the cell in topology service before we register it, right? So that's the tricky part that's not documented, and we have to figure out how to handle properly. I'm not sure if you remember, but we did talk about the state of a cell, right? If it's in provisioning, if it's ready, and if it's decommissioned, for example, in the past.
Mhm.
But like for you today, like let's say we come in today, right? What we do is, what I would do at least is do this one. Here, uh,
Yeah.
and then cell 6 and give it whatever ranges you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then before you commit the file, so
Mhm.
part of the provisioning here is creating what we call the tenant model, which is what we saw here. This is a tenant model, right?
Mhm.
When you do ringctl provision dry run, this will create a new tenant model, and the tenant model will have the managed domain field, which is this one. If we look at
Yeah.
this one, the managed domain, this should match what we have in the configuration under cell ID 5, right?
Mhm.
So before you commit and push a change to the deployer,
Mhm.
do a dry run to where, as is shown here, to create
Makes sense.
the
So that it
tenant
will.
model and the managed domain and things like that. And then topology service will update it in topology service. And we can maybe add documentation here on how to add it to topology service. That might be useful as well. If you can take that
Yeah.
on, that would be appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, Steve. And so this dry run should give me the new address, which the new cell ID
Yes,
6 will get. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. So if you do a dry run, it
Okay.
will
Yeah. The managed
create
domain. Yeah.
manage domain. Now, what I'm not sure, create a merge request and get it merged. So I'm not sure if the dry run or and the one that creates the merge request. Oh no, use the tenant model JSON output from the previous command. Okay, so yes, it will be the same tenant model.
Cool.
Yeah, and give it a cell ID of 6,
Mhm.
for example,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thanks, Steve.
And then I think you'll need someone from the infrastructure department to validate the checks that you want to check,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
if the sequences got updated correctly.
Yeah. Sure. I'm in talk with David on that, so I'll
Okay,
reach
sweet.
out to. Yeah. Thanks.
Sweet. And if you can capture this all in the issue as well, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we
I'll try to do
can
that.
take a look at it.
Perfect. Thank you.
So can you give us maybe this is putting you a bit on the spot, Prabha, but like, can you give us what changes you did on the sequences recently?
Yeah. So recently we made changes to sequence ranges to hold multiple ranges in it. So initially it was just one range, one min and max for a cell. And the legacy cell gets the first trillion and all other cells gets 100 billion, but it should be enough for a while or like for many years, but we don't know when it needs more or when the sequence will be saturating. So as an option to bump the sequence ranges, we made the sequence ranges of a cell to hold multiple ranges so that if there is a sequence which is saturating, maybe like consumed more than 90% of it, available ranges, the topology service can provide an additional range, which is again going to be a non-overlapping range to that cell. And we introduce a rake in the GitLab.com repo, which will consume the additionally added ranges for those saturating sequences.
And what runs that rake command? Like, what specifies to run that rake command?
Uh, Currently, it's manual, so it's going to be targeted on a cell, and it's going to be a CR to run that. But
Got it. Okay.
yeah, but we also like opened an issue to automate this because
Yeah. So
ideally,
part of phase 5, we have to
yeah,
like run this rake command when we provision a new cell. That makes sense.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
and that's why I'm asking to make sure that it's
Mhm.
not already automatically made. So this would be something
Yeah.
that we need to add to instrumenter. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I created an issue to have a maybe a cron job which can actually check or get all the saturating sequences, and then there can be a handshake between the cell and the topology service. So if
Okay.
we expose few APIs in topology service to increase the sequence range, then the cell can actually consume that without manual intervention.
Got it. Okay, so it's going to be a cron job that runs this rake command continuously, and then as soon as we update configuration on topology service, it will eventually pick it up and then adjust the
Ye-
sequences accordingly.
Yeah, the cron job will continuously monitor the sequences, so it will know
Okay,
when to run the rake. So it will run the rake only when
understood.
there is a saturating sequence. Yeah,
Understood. Okay. So
yeah.
technically we can give it, so you said we're giving 100 billion, right, per cell.
Mhm.
Technically we can give it 200 billion, like in two sets of 100 billions, but the
Yeah,
second one won't be used until we saturate the first 100 billion.
exactly. Yeah.
Understood. Nice.
Or we
Okay.
can also give like way lower range, like even like 50 or 2 billion for test cells, so it will automatically get updated. But there is a bit of a trade-off. I think it's not very easy. There is a pain in the process because the new range will be applied only for the saturating sequences, and others will be using the others. So there is some, it's not applied to everything, which is a good thing as well, so
Okay.
that there won't be gap in all the sequences. Yeah, that's the idea at least.
Nice. Nice. So what's left around sequences apart from testing it and automating it? Is there anything else
The,
that we?
that was the last piece. So everything is done on sequencer stuff. So there is
Yeah.
one open MR on updating the docs. I think Tong is going to look at it, but that's it. Other than that, it's mostly like automating this stuff. It's the only pending item, and that's
And
not a
saturation
blocker.
monitoring, I remember we were looking at using GitLab Exporter for that. Was that done
Uh,
or?
yeah, that was done as well. People from observability team helped me in opening up in other environments as well. So it was using GitLab
Sweet.
Exporter, but interestingly, we found that GitLab Exporter was not enabled for production or staging environment. It was enabled only for ops, but now it's not all the metrics in GitLab Exporter are enabled, but the PGID sequences which captures this got enabled in both the environments.
Sweet. Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it would be nice, like, to, if you have the time, to record a demo of everything, like around
Yeah,
sequences, like to explain it
mhm.
a bit more, because like you've done an amazing job, but it's been very behind the scenes as well. So it would be nice to try
Yeah,
and show that
yeah,
to
totally
the
agree
rest
on
of the
that.
team. Yeah,
Yeah, sure, sure, I'll try to do that. Thanks.
awesome.
Thank you, Prabha, for like kind of almost completing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on your own,
thanks,
which has been
Kamal.
amazing. So
No, actually, there are like so many people helped along the way, starting with Kamal, you, Tong, everyone being involved, and yeah, thanks to all of you guys. Yeah, at least now there is a system which can take care of this. Yeah,
yeah. Tarun has a really
Uh,
good question.
Prabha, you're ahead of the curve. You're the first one to complete an item of the phase 5. Congrats.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, now that there is one small piece left, so yeah, doc changes. Thanks, Kamal.
Yeah, Prabha, I just wanted to mention that there might be a blocker because we don't have the gRPC topology service deployed yet. So you won't be able to run that rake command uh, to connect to it and fetch the sequence ranges.
So you mean, sorry, Tarun, can you repeat it? Like I'm not getting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that rake command, because I remember I added those configuration in the tenant model. That rake
Mm-hmm.
command uses the topology service endpoint present in the application settings and connects it using the
Yeah.
gRPC protocol.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah, we don't have gRPC version of topology service deployed for staging or production yet.
Ah. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it is actually
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
gRPC. Maybe it's also like using the REST client as well. But excuse my lack of understanding on this. Since we have the REST client, won't it make it work? But yeah, it's actually became gRPC. But I haven't tested it end to end. There are a few stubs in the testing.
The
Not sure
REST
when it.
client, as far as I know, only exposes
Yeah, true.
classification. It doesn't expose
Yeah.
data stuff. So yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
There is a blocker on the gRPC deployment around health checks that I'm supposed to be reviewing today. So yeah,
So you mean the
Mm.
health checks?
the health checks, yes.
Yeah. Thanks for
Because
bringing that up, Tarun.
and how like to how are we configuring the topology service URL? Is that going to be inside of the tenant model?
Yeah, we already support that.
Okay. So we also have to update the ringctl command to specify the topology service URL, right? Or we
Yeah,
already added
ringctl
support
now.
for that.
Yeah, ringctl now uses adaptive provisioning, so it looks at the cell. So we just need to apply our patch, and from the next term, it would automatically add those things.
Okay, so to make sure we're all on the same page, for us, let me zoom in a little bit. So for us to test this, we need to first deploy the topology service gRPC, right? Then configure the topology service gRPC URL inside of the existing cells, right? To that cells issue. And then add a new cell example, cell ID equals 6, right? And inside of topology service, provision the cell and inside of cell's tissue, and then run the rake command. Right, that's what we have to do. And this one is blocked by this one.
Yeah, and indirectly this blocks running the rake command because it uses
Yeah.
gRPC base.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing I'm going to test as for the first iteration is just to make sure that the sequences are non-overlapping. The rake command is to check that increasing or bumping the sequence ranges are working fine. That can be tested later or once
Yeah.
the deployer is ready. Once the gRPC is ready, sorry.
Do you have a specific issue around testing all this Prabha so far, or?
Yeah, actually we have so that it's been added as an exit criteria for
Mhm.
the wider epic.
Mhm.
We have few items in there, and one of it is to make sure that cells dev and cells prod is allocated with unique database sequences. But it doesn't have an issue in its own. Maybe I can create one so that
Yeah, so
we have all the
the reason
information
I'm
recorded.
asking is, yeah,
Yeah.
so we can easily show, sorry, we can easily show that.
Yeah.
So all these, like,
Steps in
all
there. Yeah.
these can
Sure.
be in a single issue and show that it's blocked
Mhm.
by these two, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sure,
maybe
Steve.
that's um,
I will pull it out as an individual
yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Actual
Can this rake command be run for the existing cells once we have the gRPC topology service deployed? For instance, we currently have 5 different cells running in staging in production. Can we update their sequences or would we need to reprovision them?
It's a good question. We might have to, because currently they won't be having a proper sequence limit set at all. It will be having the min as 1 and max as like 2 power 64, I think. So yeah, we don't really have to reprovision. Maybe we can just update the sequence ranges of those
Yeah.
somehow.
And we have to not be careful, but like we have to give them small ranges because these cells will be deleted at some point. We'll actually provision an actual cell that will have all
Mhm.
customer data
Yeah.
after phase 5, right? So the cells we have right now, at some point, we're going to delete them and start with cell ID 1 again at some point. So, yeah.
Yeah, there is an option to allocate limited amount as well. So there is a way to skip the entire validation by setting a flag in the topology service config. Yeah, we can do that for the new cells.
Varun, I see you're confused.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry,
just
what
want
they
Karan.
to
said.
ask,
Yeah.
yeah, why do we need to recreate new cells to customer data? Like we only have one cells prod cell, but why do we need to delete and
Uh,
recreate another?
um, I guess to start from fresh, just because right now there's a lot of garbage data on them. Like QA is not running properly; it's not deleting stuff in there, so it has a lot of garbage data. And there's a few of our other things like licenses has to change uh, to be part of the GitLab.com license because right now it's a development license we have, and to make sure that it's provisioned properly and correctly. And I guess that's part of the QA cell phase, right? That's where we actually will provision the first cell that won't hold customer data, but it will hold our data, and we'll consider that as like red data. Um, so technically, cell ID 2 will be like put on the QA cell, and then cell ID 3 will be the one that will actually hold actual paying customers in it. And it's purely because these cells, we've been messing with them every day, right? Like we've been putting on our cowboy hats, enabling feature flags without any proper documentation and things like that, right? So I think for us to actually put customer data on, we need to make sure that the cell is set in pristine condition and we actually follow best practices going forward when we do that. So I think this is purely just a testing ground for now. Sales dev and sales prod. Feel free to disagree or like say otherwise, but that at least that's my current thinking of things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For staging one side, we have been using them as disposable anyway, so that is fine.
Basically, the idea was like that those cells, up until they become a cluster aware, you would have to recreate them. And they will become cluster aware after phase 5 when we have all of the communication with topology service claiming and sequence. So this is when we could retain them for longer, but now they are like a separate entities completely. Other cells. Basically they are overlapping.
Awesome. Anything else we wanna discuss around this? This was an awesome discussion, Prabha. Thank you. I really
Yes.
appreciate it. Anything else we wanna bring up on here? I have one topic that might be good to discuss is testing across services. So this is what Probo is trying to do, right? Testing across all the services. Um, right now it's being done like it's going to be done manually, which is all fine and good, but I think we're going to start facing these problems going forward now that we're having services talking to one another. So how can we like something we need to think about is how do we test this in an automated fashion, like coming down in 4 months' time when we have to rechange the rake command to do something else or refactor it or whatever, right? Like how do we actually test if it works end to end without doing manual tests? Um, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is what we've been kind of facing with the HTTP router already, and I'm assuming we're going to be facing it with RAIDs and um, topology service going forward, right? So I don't have an answer, but it's been something that I've been thinking about, and I think we need to collectively figure out how we're going to test things across services. Um, I'm not sure if we have prior art with GitLab Pages, GitLab Runner, and things like that. As far as I know, we don't per se, apart from running heavy end-to-end tests. But yeah. And that's why I'm asking Prabha to document how we test it, so then we can see if we can automate those kind of tests in the future.
To just clarify my own understanding, is it the more concern of validating in a prior environment and then rolling it out to production? Or is it more with different services? How do we make sure that it's backward compatible at the same time, doesn't break them?
Yeah, backward compatible, verifying it, and like making sure we don't break anything, even on state on sales dev or whatnot, right? Like um, this rig command that we built. Right now we're gonna test it manually, which is good. This is what we need to do. But like going forward, like are we gonna continue testing it manually, or can we have like some kind of automated tests to actually check that hey, will we don't regress on the sequencing on provisioning a new cell, right? Like, I don't want us to like, we've had it in the past where we provision a cell, not a cell, but we provision something once, use an old script that we developed like a year ago, run it again, and it doesn't work because things change so much. And like, I don't want us to hit this problem because when we provision a cell, we want it to work, not work. So how do we run these end-to-end tests, like from a continuous manner and like on every deploy or on every merge request or whatnot? So um, that's the tricky part. I'm already talking to the DevX team around this kind of stuff, but um, that's one thing that we're gonna have to think about. And like when we're talking to one service and another, like how we're gonna test all this stuff.
Thanks for bringing that up, Steve. Yeah, that will definitely help. Also, I think recently Stan was uh, talking about something related to this. There was a broken master because of incompatible topology service and HTTP router version in GTK, I guess. I think it's definitely good to maintain that to have a proper
Yeah.
testing as well.
Awesome. Anything else we want to talk about? Have a nice day, everybody. And thank you for this discussion.
Thank you all.